Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Natasha Katuta Mwila, and it is a pleasure to join you in sharing my experience in thesis writing from the perspectives of having completed the thesis writing process myself, supervising thesis students, as well as assessing thesis for dissertation. My contribution to this discussion will be in two parts. I'll be looking at the three main hurdles of thesis writing and how to address them. Under the hurdles of thesis writing, I look at the preventers, procrastinators, and killers of the writing process. And in the second part, I look at how to address these hurdles through self-clarity, managing supervision, self-management, getting organized, and refueling. I want to start off with hurdle one, the preventers of thesis writing, which we can broadly classify as the sources of overwhelm. The first thing that makes us feel overwhelmed are actually our own thoughts. There is an adage that you are your own worst enemy, and this is true of the thesis process as well. At one point or the other, we are bound to overthink our topic, our discipline focus, and our ability, all of which without resolve prevent the writing process from even commencing. The second source of overwhelm are actually the thoughts of others. Now, the thoughts and opinions of others include our peers and supervisors who we tend to try to impress. If there is a disconnect between their thoughts and opinions and your own, this too can prevent the writing process. The third source of overwhelm are being faced with multiple options. So facing several alternatives can also prevent writing, especially when you're unable to decide early what course to take. Options could be in the area of study direction and career opportunities. We all have lives before and beyond the doctoral journey. So what we find overwhelms us as well are the multiple tasks that we have to manage. The doctoral journey is a life of its own, and this means we have to juggle it alongside other aspects of our being. Because it is often an add-on to other areas of our responsibility, it tends to be put off along with the writing associated with it. So how do we address overwhelm? It is not gloomy. If it were so, we would not be here. These are a few tips to address the issues that I've so far highlighted. The first is self-clarity. Know yourself and know what you want to do. What do I mean by that? You need to understand what it is that motivates you. You also need to understand the vision that you have for your study and the outcome that you would like out of the doctoral process. Now, these things could change over time, but staying clear about what it is at any point in time that is keeping you motivated, that you want to see come out of the study and process, is going to be important in making sure that your own thoughts are not overwhelming. In managing the thoughts and opinions of others, one role that you have to play is that of managing your supervision. Now, many of you will believe that your supervisors are managing the process, but it's actually a two-way street. They have their end of the bargain to sort out, but you also have yours. Yours is twofold. Firstly, listening to your supervisors, and secondly, getting your supervisors to listen to you. In listening to your supervisors, you need to understand that your supervisors probably have a good sense of where your study is going, but they cannot do the writing and the thinking and the processing for you. What they can give you is direction, but you should be able to take it. So listening in this context is about being receptive to their ideas, which may actually be different from your own, and engaging with this supervision. Okay, so being receptive here doesn't mean that you're going to take everything on board, but it means that you're going to be able to critically integrate their thinking, their perspectives, and try to see where that aligns with your own study. In areas where there is a lack of alignment, this is where it is important for you to develop the art of getting your supervisors to listen to you. But how do you do that? You can only do that through finding your own voice as a scholar. And this means that you should get them to be able to then see you as a peer. This can only happen when you are able to come from an informed position of self-clarity. So being very clear about what you want to do in the process and what you want to see out of it, which is the first thing we've already discussed, is crucial in getting your supervisors to engage with you and your ideas as well, rather than simply giving you their own directions and opinions without trying to integrate your own thoughts. The third key issue that will help you address overwhelm is self-management. Now, this means that you need to be able to take care of yourself and take care of areas of your life outside the PhD and doctoral process. Self-management also means acquiring the skills that you need for this journey. Many of you will have been trained in various forms of methodology and in various philosophies of your disciplines, but there may be new skills that you need to develop along the way. So you need to be prepared to acquire whatever these skills may be, particularly skills related to writing. Thirdly, learn to prioritize. Time management is one of the biggest things that you'll hear come from students about their struggles with the thesis writing process. Prioritizing means that you need to sacrifice in some areas while still maintaining your basic self-care. So thesis writing is something that you will need to prioritize because it is time-bound. You do not have the luxury of doing it at your own convenience. The second hurdle I'd like us to discuss today is procrastination. And this is often the outcome of not being sufficiently nor efficiently organized. Not being organized means that we often don't quite know where to start. And even if we know where to start, the lack of organization could actually mean that we spend a lot of our effort reading around. Now, not knowing where to start actually means that you won't know how to start writing, which is quite a difficult thing for most people to overcome. The other key issue around disorganization is the fact that as we read around and acquire so many bits of information, we eventually lose focus, the focus required to write effectively. So being disorganized about the data that we accumulate over time is also one of the key issues that can hinder the writing process. So how do we overcome this? Okay, if you're disorganized, simply get organized. Now, there are two facets of this. There is physical organization, which has to do with your own working space, where you write physically, and there's digital organization, which is about how you organize the resources that you acquire online or through digital means. So with physical organization, I give this advice with a pinch of salt because I recognize that everybody is different. So what works for one person in a physical space may not necessarily work for another. Personally, a cluttered space actually clutters my mind. So I do thrive in a physically organized space. So whenever I need to write meaningfully, then my space needs to be organized. I can't have clutter around me. I've developed a sense of ritual around my writing space because this helps me also focus. So for me, I also need to have some background music. I function well, I write well under those conditions rather than complete silence and just having clutter around me. So find what works for you and make sure that whenever you want to get into the zone, mental zone of writing, you have physically prepared your space for that. The second key area is digital organization, as I already mentioned, and this is quite important in these times where you will receive a lot of resources through these means. So you need to master how to organize your resources because them being in a digital format means you'll actually acquire more of these than if you were acquiring physical resources. So learn how to protect your writing progress as you go digitally as well. So there are many software platforms, there are many cloud facilities that can help you do this. So do some research and investigate what works for you. Many institutions would have signed up to some sort of platform. So please engage with digital resources, particularly the management of storing these resources and protecting your writing. As many of you know, the doctoral journey is a marathon and not a sprint, and therefore that means you will certainly get tired. But worse than that, some of you will fall out of love with your work at some point, and we hope you'll fall back in love with your work enough at least to complete the thesis. Okay, so how do we address this? You need to refuel, and refueling here involves 3 key things. Keep reading, keep writing, and keep reviewing. Now, this sounds counterintuitive to the idea of being burnt out and lacking motivation. But if you keep reading, you keep writing, and keep reviewing, so you actually just keep going, you'll find that you're able to just tip over that step of being burnt out and do just what is enough to complete the thesis writing process. Now, around reading, you need to read many theses in your area to get a sense of the norms, styles, and varieties that are available to you. You also need to read well-written non-academic work to broaden your flair. So if you're exhausted and burnt out by reading work from your discipline, it's okay to read a magazine article. It is okay to read a blog. The important thing is that you keep on taking in other people's writing. So keep reading to get a sense of how you will then write. Because after all, you write for people to read. So you need to understand how you receive other people's writing in order for you to inform your own style. Writing is an art, and any art is improved with consistent practice. So in as much as I'm encouraging you to keep reading, you should also keep writing. And one technique that I developed was that of writing 100 words a day. Now, this is writing 100 words a day of anything. It doesn't necessarily need to contribute to your thesis. If it does, that's great. But also you could be writing for a blog. You could be writing your own reflections. You could be keeping a journal. Just keep writing and writing well. So not in text language, but writing well, writing formally. This is really, really important in developing your writing flair. In terms of writing towards your thesis, you need to accept that the first drafts of your work may be far from your final drafts. So mentally prepare yourself to rewrite several things over and over again as you refine your skill in writing. The third key part of refueling is becoming the first critic of your own work. Try to see it through someone else's eyes, and if that is too difficult, then ask others to read what you write and provide honest feedback. This means that you need to actually develop a community of peers who are honest and willing to provide this much needed feedback, and that you're able to provide the same to in return. So reviewing your own work is an essential part of making sure that you're able to communicate effectively through your writing, because that is the essential purpose of the thesis. Why are you writing it? It is to communicate the new knowledge that you're coming up with to a broader audience. So you need to make sure that this broader audience can understand what you're writing. And this only comes through reflecting on the feedback from people that are reading your work. So, what I've provided here is far from all the advice you ever need in thesis writing, but it really has come from a place of love of the thesis process, a love that I developed in my own journey and my own personal experiences with it. So I have a few pointers that I would like to leave you with that sort of sum up everything that has been presented so far. The first is, don't be married to your first ideas. Your ideas may be improved on as you grow in knowledge, so you must allow this improvement to happen. Being committed to an idea is only worthwhile if the idea is not only good, but robust enough to stand the 3 to 4 year span of your study. The second thing you need to acknowledge is that your thesis may not be your life's work. Yes, you will put a lot of passion into your thesis, but you must accept that it may only be a dent on knowledge that it makes. So it's not every doctoral thesis that will be a Nobel Prize winner. And that's okay, because your life's work may well be ahead of you beyond the thesis. Your doctoral journey should really be viewed as an opportunity to acquire knowledge skills, which you will continually apply in future work, but also your initial steps in contributing to knowledge. Thirdly, don't take anything personally. I know that it is definitely difficult to get back feedback that is flooded with red ink track changes, but you need to see this as your reader's commitment to wanting to see the best out of your work. Your work may not yet be up to standard, but you certainly are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made it into the program that you're on. So don't take the critique of your work as a criticism of you as a person. The fourth is really important to me because I've seen many people crumble during this process through mental and emotional breakdown because they were unwilling or thought they shouldn't take a break. And what I want to say is that it is okay to take a break, provided you come back, of course. Okay. I personally took a 6-week break away from my studies, traveled around, cleared my mind, and that helped me really reboot. When I returned back to my studies, I found myself revitalized and with fresh perspectives on old ideas. I actually fell out of love with what I was doing at some point simply because I was physically tired. But being able to recharge in that way made me fall back in love and really gave me that gusto to finish this race. And that was where I personally actually found the aha moment of my writing. The next crucial thing you need to do is keep your eye on the prize. Now, you need to remember why you're doing what you're doing. Things can get tough, so let your reason for commencing the journey stay in front of you to motivate you, whatever that reason may be. Lastly, invest in the relationships you make along your journey, because they could be what shapes your career in academia and beyond. For me, I found that even though your PhD thesis journey may be singular, it need not be lonely because you will meet many people during this time. Invest in these relationships that you make. I personally would not have had the opportunities and support that I needed within my career had it not been for the community of people that I made my support system during the journey and thereafter. On that note, I invite you all to connect with me on LinkedIn through that link provided. Thank you very much.